Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Black Entrepreneurs Institute Live. We are back and we have another amazing show for you today. I am one of the co-founders, Dr. Nicole Rankin, and I'm here with my partners and fellow BEI co-founders, Angela Hoover Minifield, Mr. Cedric LaFleur,
Hello.
and Damian Johnson.
Greetings, everyone.
How are you all doing?
Always great.
Always great. I love it. Well, we're coming off of a Valentine's Day celebration this week. And, a lot of people love Valentine's. So do you guys, I'm curious, a lot of husbands get in the doghouse and they forget those dates and not get gifts. So how do you guys celebrate, or do you celebrate Valentine's Day?
Nay.
No?
I told my husband when we got married, I didn't need him to find one day of the year to treat me special. I wanted the 365.
Okay.
Instead of the one. And so, no, we do not do Valentine's at all.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. My wife told me a long time ago that there are a few days that are important to her, and Valentine was on that list. So, I do the obligatory things that you have to do.
Obligatory. Did you hear that?
Oh.
But at the end of the day, fellas, I'm gonna give you something that you can use. Now, we've been married 34 years. I'm gonna give you something you can use. All you got to do, I see these people go to the store and they're reading cards. They're reading cards. Oh, not that good. Pick the card with the most words on it, and you're gonna be fine. That's it. That's how I tell my kids, hey, I didn't get a card. Can you remember to pick one up? Oh, Dad, you want me to go to one with the most words? Yes. It's fine.
It feels so heartfelt, Cedric.
Oh boy.
So Nicole, he basically just proven all my points, right?
Hey, 34 years.
Hey.
They got a lot of people that have been reading cards and they still can't get married right.
You're right about that. I won't argue that point. Look.
What about you, Dave?
Funny. So Cedric, I'm gonna have to try that strategy, right? Because I'm 5 years in, approaching 6 now, and so I'll test it out and let you know how it works. But listen, I have been in the doghouse before. I won't sit here and tell any lies, and it is too hard getting out of the doghouse. So what I did was I ordered a gift box from datebox.com, and basically it has like dating items. And so we're still practicing social distancing, and so we decided we weren't going to go out and do any kind of dinner, any kind of major outing. We just kind of had a nice little private date night at home, and she loved it.
Oh, I thought you were saying you were practicing social distancing with your wife. I was like,
oh my gosh.
Now, come on.
See, you not only elevate your mindset and your money here with BEI, but we give you tips for life, okay?
This is how you date in social.
I love it. See, you just like to have fun.
You all know I got way too many kids to be practicing social distancing. My wife,
look, that is social distancing. They always in the way.
I love it. I love it. See, guys, this is how we have fun elevating our mindset and our money. There's nothing like that. So today, we're talking about women in business, and when you talk about women in business, you hear a lot of things. There are a lot of statistics out there, but what we're seeing is a surge of women that's starting and running their companies, even globally. It's approximate that 163 million women are running companies and becoming business owners around the world. And, these women, they sometimes employ their community members, they take financial care of their families, and they're truly respected in the business world. But even with that, there's still more challenges that women go through, more obstacles that women go through in becoming business owners and entrepreneurs that they face. So, guys, what do you think are some strategies that we can think of to help support women in business?
Well, one of the things that we can do, Nicole, is to support. Go out to, I'll give you an example. The WNBA, women's college basketball, girls' high school game. How many of us actually go, right, to games to support them, right? I love getting around people. Oh, I'm a basketball fan. I'm a this. I say, how many NFL games? WNBA games you go to? How many high school girls games you go to? See, That's how you do it. Just go out and support it.
That's
what
good.
Yeah.
I love that, Cedric. I would actually agree with that. I even when my daughter was little, and I never had no interest in coaching, but because I even wanted to make sure that the girls were nurtured properly, but treated, as you said, in the way that encouraged them to have the right skills that we believe sports bring to the table. I actually served as her coach, and that particular year, we actually won the championship for our league. You know, look, and I'm not taking a whole lot of credit because I wasn't that great of a coach, but I thought I was a great mentor for the girls. But as a woman-owned business and an entrepreneur, the other thing I would say is having mentors, you know, and I, tease a little bit our guests, but I remember even when I first got in this space, our guest today was one of the people that I looked up to, right? So watching other women do the things that I wanted to do was really a great inspiration for me. And I think, now I'm trying to do that same thing, pay it forward.
Awesome.
I love that. So one of the things that we know to be true is that when you're getting in business, there's more than one thing that you need to learn to be successful in business. So I would encourage developing business acumen, because there's a lot of moving parts to running a business. It's not just about having a passion and going with it. Yes, you need to have some passion, but there's some things that you need to know. And especially anybody that's getting in business, you guys know me, I'm going to encourage that they develop some sales skills as a part of that process, because that's how the money comes in. You got to have a sales process to generate the income that you need. So yeah, that's what I would say.
Awesome tips. Well, tonight we have an amazing woman entrepreneur that is creating tremendous impact in the lives of others. And I know she holds a special dear part in my heart too, because she helped me transition to my entrepreneur experience. So tonight I'm excited to introduce Sheri Riley. Sheri is a wife, a mother, a daughter, entrepreneur, empowerment speaker, high performance life coach, and award-winning author. And we know that that is not easy, but you guys, she figured out a way of how to make it simple. After spending years creating marketing strategies for global superstars like Usher and Warner Media and Converse, she now serves as an empowerment speaker for high performance, a life coach, as a strategist, and also author. So we are excited to introduce to the Black Entrepreneurs Show, Sheri Riley.
Hello, everybody.
Welcome.
Thank you. All this brilliance. I'm so honored. I'm just like, yes.
And Cedric.
Awesome. So Sheri, just tell, we know a lot about you, but tell us about yourself specifically, how you began and how you began your entrepreneur journey.
Well, I've always known when I was in high school, when I was in college, that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. Even in business school, my electives were small business courses and entrepreneurship courses. And so that was always there. And so for me, having that desire to be an entrepreneur was really fostered through everything you guys talked about in the opening, as far as that business acumen, finding those mentors that I could touch and I couldn't touch. And then when I launched my business, I really found the difference between being a business owner, being self-employed, and being an entrepreneur, right? There's definitely some unique differences there. But I've been an entrepreneur now since 1997.
Wow.
That's awesome. So Sheri, tell me, that's a long time to be in business. Wow. So talk to us a little bit about the actual inner motivation, the inner drive for creating your business.
Well, the inner motivation was I wanted the creative freedom to actually build something that spoke to who and what I was. But more importantly, I wanted to be able to employ other people. I wanted to be able to support other people. I wanted to create a platform for myself that created profit, but also allowed me to create my own timeline. It's how I spent my time. Because my A plan was always to be a wife and a mother. My B plan was to be a successful entrepreneur. So my business had to support the lifestyle that I wanted. Outside of that, honestly, Cedric, it's just always been there. Like my mom and my dad shared stories with me of how I just was always would take over and, not just be a leader, but it's like, how do we create something? How do I bring others in to help support the vision of what we're creating from the time I was little? So it's always been there, but I had to be very intentional in how I developed that skill. Like I said, in college, taking those entrepreneur courses and those small business courses. But then as an entrepreneur, like I said, even being an entrepreneur since 97, it's constantly developing and growing in my skill set and what it takes to continue to thrive. One of the things I say all the time is, as an entrepreneur, 6 out of 7 days, I want to get a job. On the 7th day, I'm just too busy to think about it. So it is a everyday internal decision to actually commit to the consistency of what it takes to be an entrepreneur.
Oh, and I must say that last part you said again, because I think a lot of entrepreneurs, they don't pay attention. Say that last part. I love that.
That it takes every day, it's an intentional decision to commit to the consistency of what it takes to be an entrepreneur.
Yes, love that.
That is so true. That consistency is really important. And so, as Nicole mentioned and when she was reading your bio, that, you're an award-winning author, and we're all just so proud of you and your book, Exponential Living. So tell us a little bit about viewers, if you don't have the book yet, please jump online immediately after this show and grab it. But what is it that you hope they gain from reading your book?
What I want people to gain is how to live in the and. The subtitle is Stop Spending 100% of your time on 10% of who you are. And that's so easy to do as an entrepreneur, because the responsibilities of having that freedom can be absolutely overwhelming, and they can require 25 out of the 24 hours that you get. And so what I wanted to do is I wanted to empower entrepreneurs and other high achievers, high performers, on how to have the and, how to be successful at business, but also to be successful at who you are as a person first. Because when you're an entrepreneur, you can be so overwhelmed with the responsibilities that you forget you are the missing piece. You are the anchor. You are the visionary. And so if you're not working at your full potential and who you are, if your creativity is stifled because you're exhausted, if your energy is stifled because you don't know how to turn your brain off and rest, if you haven't taken the time to really dream, and I'm not talking strategize, I'm not talking about doing the vision plan, I'm talking about really dreaming, that childlike dreaming, no boundaries, no borders, no responsibility, just dreaming. If you haven't created the space as an entrepreneur to do that, then there's such a cap that you put on your success in your business. And so what I want people to walk away with my book is I want them to get the tools so that they can be their best self and bring their best self to their business.
Wow. That is awesome. And I like that, how to live in the and. That's just awesome right there.
Yeah.
I like that. So, transitioning from corporate life, I say transitioning from having that cha-ching every 2 weeks, right? It's coming. Right? to cutting that cord and letting it go, and then say, I'm out here on my own now. I have to create the cha-ching, right? So talk to us about that transition from corporate life to entrepreneurship. What was that like? And
you just hit the nail on the head. Let me tell you guys. So my rude awakening into being an entrepreneur, I worked at LaFace Records. So I had an unlimited expense account. This is in the 90s, right? So I had an unlimited expense account. I stayed at the best hotels. I had ground transportation everywhere I went. And so I resigned from LaFace and I started my company, Glue. And so I went to Los Angeles for awards time period. So it's in February. So you had the Grammys and you had the Image Awards. And so, that's the time that you're in LA. I live in Atlanta. So I stayed in the same hotel that I would stay at LaFace because that was my norm. I used the same car service that I would use when I was at LaFace because that was my norm. I ate at the same restaurants. I paid for the, individuals that we went because that was my norm that I had dined with. And then I came back to Atlanta and I went to turn in my expense report. And realized that American Express bill was mine. And that's the rude awakening I got. Like, oh, hold on. This is different. There is no reimbursement. And so, that was truly that moment when I realized the difference. And, I say that because it's true and it's funny.
Well, now it is funny, but
but the biggest change that I had to adjust going from corporate to entrepreneurship was mindset. It was mindset. The mindset that, Sheri, you have to do things differently when you go to Los Angeles. The mindset of what it is to get a check on the 15th and the 30th, and what it is to the realities of you only eat what you kill. So the biggest trend, and this, when and Nicole can speak to this, when I work with my clients that are transitioning from corporate or from having a career position into entrepreneurship, I can teach you, or you go and Google, and you can find other resources that will walk you through the processes. But what I uniquely can help you with, what's critical for your success as an entrepreneur, is the mindset and the paradigm shift that it takes. You have to think differently. You have to process differently. As we know, there's a difference between a leader and a manager. Everything about the way you look at things, if you wake up every day and are not intentional about setting the mindset that you are a winner, that you will be victorious, that you are a magnet for opportunity, you have to wake up with that mindset as an entrepreneur. And so, whereas, when you are working for someone, that can be a component of it, but it isn't vital. It isn't critical. The other thing is the value of your time. You can spend in corporate America or in your career position 8 hours a day at the desk and create for 4 hours. As an entrepreneur, those 4 hours that you're not creating is going to cost you more than those 4 hours because you're still going to get that check when you have a career position. But the 4 hours that you're not committed to with intention as an entrepreneur, they have a greater cost.
Yeah, that's so true. So many people, and in every circle that I pretty much walk in, have aspirations of being an author, right? Like everybody wants to write a book, including me. So I'll throw my name in the hat too. So what advice would you give entrepreneurs that say they want to write a book?
What I would say is start with the end in mind. Stephen Covey gave us that jewel. Start with the end in mind, because there's so many ways to get to the end result of having a completed book. And when I say start with the end in mind, I mean, what is the goal for you writing a book? For some people, it's just to add credentials that they are an author, right? For some, it's because they have a message that they want to get out into the world, and that may be a component. For others, it may be a marketing tool, where they just want to use that to now launch a speaking career or to amplify their brand positioning in the marketplace. So start with the end in mind, because when you start with the end in mind, then it will allow you to answer the next most critical question. And that is, are you going to self-publish or are you going to get a publisher? And that's 6 in one hand, half a dozen in the other. Neither one is better than the other. The reality is whatever your end result is speaks to which one is more impactful for your end result. So, for example, I had an entrepreneur colleague and he wanted to write a book. Well, for him, the reason he wanted to write the book is because he, as the CEO of his company, he wanted to speak more, and the book gave him more credibility. So for him, self-publishing made sense because he just needed this tool in his toolbox. Whereas for me, I knew that I had a message that I wanted to get to a global market. I knew that I wanted that message to reach a high-performing audience. And so for me, I needed the added plus of having a publisher because I needed their brand value to add to my brand equity, and I needed global distribution from the onset. And so for me, I went the route of a publisher. Neither one is right or wrong, because at the end of the day, as an author, we have to do the same amount of work, whether you have a publisher or don't have a publisher. But you have to determine what your end result is. And then after you determine if you're going to publish or self-publish, then get the help you need. So many times we think that writing a book means you have to sit in front of a computer and type. The reality is there's so many ways to get the message out of you, and there's a lot of help to help you get that message into book form. So for my book, every word in that book I wrote. Every word in that book came from me. But I am not a writer. I'm the author of the content. So as the author of the content, I wrote it out of me, and then I had an editor who then put that in book format, because I'm not a writer. I don't know how to put it in book format, but I'm the author of the content. For others, they're not able to write it. So what I tell them is get this tool, right? And get this memo and just talk. And send that thing to rev.com or some other translation service. Let them translate your audio, and then you can get an editor to put it in book form. Bottom line is there's so many ways to get the book out of you. Don't get stuck in any format. And there's so many resources that can help you in writing or getting help in writing the book, whether it's from someone like myself that I wrote everything out and I just had an editor come in and put it in book format, or whether it's someone that I had a friend of mine that I helped her. And basically she interviewed with someone for an hour and a half. They took that interview, came back to her with a manuscript. She went through it, was like, that's it. And she ended up with a book. So there's so many ways. So I would recommend highly, what amount of time do you have? What is the end result that you want to accomplish? And then find the resources and tools that help you accomplish that goal.
Yeah, I love that.
Awesome.
Yeah, I like that.
That's so good. So Sheri, 2020 has been, it's been a doozy of a year. I mean, has been lots of ups and downs, and lots of people have had losses. Lots of businesses have, quite frankly, closed their doors. And you're still standing, right? Since 1997. So share with us a little bit about the pivots that you've had to make in your business as a result of the events of 2020.
Yeah, I love, Damien, when you say pivot, for the first 3 weeks after March 14th, I kept saying pivot, pivot, pivot. And then I realized you're not pivoting, Sheri, you're actually up leveling. Because what happened with my business on, March 10th, I flew back from the West Coast where I had done some one-on-one coaching work with one of my clients. And my husband flew back March 11th from some work that he was doing. And he said, Sheri, you know what? We have to quarantine. Your mother is 78. She lives with us. My parents are right around the corner. So we literally made that decision before March 12th when the NBA shut down, and March 13th, everything shut down, March 14th. And so I picked up the phone immediately on March 14th and began making phone calls, because I knew in that moment, as my primary source of income being me as a speaker, and my husband's component of the business being experiential marketing, immediately 6 figures went out the door, just walked out the door. But what it allowed for us to really focus in on some areas of the business that needed our attention in order for us to really bring them to fruition. Instead of really grieving over the loss of income, it forced us to up-level the business in a way that we needed to do anyway. And the greatest business lesson I got from 2020 was I had taken this company as far as I could take it. I needed help. I needed help to scale to the next level. And so 2020 forced me to slow down long enough to accept that I needed to get very intentional help in some very specific areas in order for me to truly scale the business. So that was the greatest lesson from a business standpoint that I got out of 2020. And the greatest personal lesson that's helped me from a business standpoint is I had to understand, and I really truly began to understand what's most important is what's most important. Make what's most important most important. And so, yes, the business was most important, was very important. But what was most important was my family and being even more intentional in the kind of time that I spent with my family when we come out of this quarantine. Because we were forced to, quote unquote, be together, right? Because no one could go anywhere.
Mhm.
I don't even want to use the word force because the reality is it allowed us to really understand what was most important. And so, coming on the other side of this, the greatest lesson my business is going to get is I now know how to get the help I need in order for me to make what's most important, which is my family. So now I can scale the business with the help and I can have that valuable time with my family that's critical. So that was my greatest business lesson coming out of 2020.
Wow, I
That's
love it.
amazing. I love
So
that.
don't just pivot up level.
Up,
Yeah,
yes,
up level.
up
And
level.
I like when you say make what's most important most important. And I know that you have created a saying that peace is the new success, right? And so I want to know, like, how did you create that, what we call a brand message? And what tips do you have for entrepreneurs who are looking to create their brand identity and message?
Well, all of you guys know me, so y'all know I'm a woman of faith. I don't put my faith on anyone. Y'all know where I got that too. Uh, but I got to be honest and transparent. You know, God gave me that, and He dropped it in my spirit. Now, the work that I did, faith without works is dead. The work that I did to be open to receive that was I really understood two things. One, I was called to usher people into the power of peace. And two, that is a hard proposition to sell in the business. Who wants to pay for peace? That is not, come on, Damien, from a sales perspective. Come on,
That's
come
a
on.
tough sell.
Right? So I knew two things. And so in that, I was very intentional with, okay, God, you've given me, I'm a marketing girl at heart. I'm still a marketing girl at heart. So I knew Peace is the New Success was a powerful brand. I trademarked it instantly. I've had the trademark of over 12 years. But I also knew from a business standpoint, it was a tough sale. And so I had to be very intentional with this word peace and how it translated in the business. And so the process, Nicole, was what what do people want? Well, they want success. But the reality is, what they really want is they want success because they believe success is going to give them peace. They want the money and the income because they believe financial freedom is going to give them peace. They want love and marriage and relationships because they believe that that security is going to give them peace. And so, what came out of that and creating the brand identity around it is at the end of the day, what we really want is peace. So peace is the new success. And so there was the vision of the idea, but then there was the intention on how do I now make it marketable and profitable. And that's the process that I went through, and I'm still going through. I'm going through it right now. I'm in the process of redoing my website, and I have to go through that. You know, what are those branding identities that speak to the company now, that speak to the service that we provide now? So the question I'm asking myself, and I would encourage your viewers to ask, is what problem do you solve and what value do you bring? What problem do you solve? What value do you bring? What is the greatest that your clients are that your clients have? And how do you fix that pain point? And when you identify that, then you go through, and time won't allow us to go through it in detail, but then you go through the process of how that pain point that you fix, how you use that in your brand identity. I'll give you one more real quick. Stop spending 100% of your time on 10% of who you are. Again, God dropped it in my spirit. I share in the book how it came about, but then I had to put intention around how do I take this amazing marketing statement, stop spending 100% of your time on 10% of who you are, and really create that in a way that allows people to buy into that from a brand identity. Exponential living. My agent and my everybody, my agent, my editor, they all tell me exponential living. No one would get it. I can never use it as a brand. I can never use it as a part of my book title. But I had to be intentional. So I went on social media and I would create quotes and I'd hashtag exponential living. What I did was I took an idea that no one could see or understand, and I created through social media, through my emails, through my messaging. I created the messaging around. When you think of exponential living, what you think about, I was intentional in creating that using social media and using marketing. So, whatever that brand identity is, it is your responsibility to be intentional, to own it in a way that when people think about exponential living, they think about Sheri Riley. When people think about pieces in this success, they think about Sheri Riley. You have to be intentional about owning your brand identity.
Yeah, love that.
Yeah.
Love that. I like what you said, paying for peace, right? And when you said that, you said at first, nobody wants to, who's going to pay for that, right? And I thought immediately, paying for peace is like paying for water. If you go back to when we grew up, right? I mean, we grew up just drinking water out of the fire, out of the hose outside, right? We're going to pay for water back then, but who's not paying for water today?
Exactly. That's exactly.
So
Thank you, Cedric. That's it. That's it. That is it. Yes.
So, being an entrepreneur comes with a lot of sacrifice, right? And as entrepreneurs, we all know that it requires great sacrifice. That Amex card, you can't expense it anymore. So you got to sacrifice. I got to go and make that money, right? So, how has that that sacrifice and being an entrepreneur impacted your family life? And I guess I probably have to think about it outside of a COVID environment.
Yes. The sacrifice has been great. I think you guys, if you don't walk away with anything else, you'll walk away with the fact that I'm a wordsmith. Because I had to change that word sacrifice and I use investment. The sacrifice of when I had a consulting firm for 17 years and I transitioned from having the consulting firm to serving as an empowerment speaker, high performance life coach, and author. There was a tremendous financial deficit in making that transition. Whole lot of things I won't have time to go into. But what my husband and I sat down and decided was the most important investment we could make in this transitional period of going from a successful consulting firm to serving as an empowerment speaker and life strategist was the investment we were going to make in our children's education. And we wanted them in this particular private school. And so we sold our home so we could move in the area closest to their school. We reduced down to one car in Atlanta. Anyone who lives in Atlanta knows that is a sacrifice. We call investment. But we made these adjustments because we wanted to make sure, again, the most important thing was the most important thing. And so that was the investment in our daughter's education. In that, we were then able to commit to what we had to do to build this business. So that sacrifice, i.e. for us, that investment, that's just one of many. You have to be committed to how you invest your time. For some, that may mean getting up earlier and going to bed later. For some, that may mean the intention they have with their time. Another investment is your money and how you use your money. There was a point in my life personally where there was some major financial challenges, but my husband and I committed to investing a lot of money, thousands of dollars in me working one-on-one with Les Brown so that I could truly get the value of what it would take to up-level me as a speaker. Well, that $4,000 investment at that time has moved me up to, a $500,000 a year speaker. So there's that investment. Again, it was a sacrifice at that time, but it was an investment. So we have to be intentional about how we invest our money. And the most important thing we have to be intentional about is how we invest our yes. One of the greatest sacrifices we have to make is knowing when to say no. As an entrepreneur, knowing when to say no, knowing when to say no. And so there's some sacrifices or investments that we make because there's one of my girlfriends said to me this weekend, she said, Sheri, you're not as light as you used to be. And when she said that, that kind of punched me, Cedric, because I was like, oh, but I'm still that jovial person. But what I recognize is what she was speaking to is right now, I'm in the process of really up leveling my business. So I'm very focused. So all of the time that we used to spend together laughing and joking, I'm having to say no to that now for this period of time because I need to invest that time in some deliverables that I have. So there's an adjustment in friendships that entrepreneurs have to be intentional about. So those are a few: our time, our friendships and relationships, our intention around our money, and what cost? What cost will you pay to get the freedom of being an entrepreneur?
Yes. Well, just this segment right here, if you get nothing else, that's that segment right there. The power in investing in your yes. You should take it and record it and then just keep replaying it over and over and over and over again.
Thank
Powerful.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Angela, you're muted.
Yeah, I muted myself. There was some outside noise. I'm trying to be a good listener. But what I was saying was that was powerful. It just really makes you think. And I think this next question is actually a good segue into that, because what we know is there are a lot of businesses that are run and operated by women, and a lot of which, that call themselves mompreneurs. And they're making a huge impact on the business world. So what advice would you give women and families who want to become entrepreneurs but doubt the ability to do so?
Yes, I love this question. One of there's two things that I say to women, specifically women entrepreneurs, is one, it's okay to have our Superwoman cape, right? I love my Superwoman cape. But let me tell you, that Superwoman cape is multi-purpose, because I know how to take that Superwoman cape, wrap it around me, and take a nap. Right? I know how to take that Superwoman cape off, put it over my head, and just sit in the dark sometimes because I just need a quiet space. I know how to take that Superwoman cape off and use it as a Kleenex to wipe the tears when I've just hit that point where I need that relief that can only come through crying. So we have to be able to really understand that we can go back to Cedric, to that, and we can be Superwoman, but we also got to understand that Superwoman's cape has multi-purpose. The second thing I would recommend is you don't have to do everything. As a female, let your husband wash those towels. Now, they're not going to be folded the way you wanted them folded. They're going to fall out of the pantry when you open up the door.
Great.
Let them wash those towels. It's okay. It's okay. There's so many things that we need to allow others to do. We have to, as mompreneurs, we have to allow ourselves to receive. We spend time in that prayer closet asking for help, and we do everything to stop God from sending it to us. It's okay. Give yourself permission to get help. My community, we have created a mom's network, because travel, entrepreneur, corporate executives, we got all these things that we're responsible for. So if my daughter, I can't get to her because I'm on an amazing interview with you guys, and if it's pre-COVID, if she was at school, I've got that mother's text group. My husband has a father's text group that we trust, that they can text us, hey, I'm going to go get your daughter. I'm going to go get your son. We have to have a community to help us. And it's okay to create that community if it's not family. So give yourself permission to get help. And then the last thing I would offer is, everyone talks about self-care, and self-care is critical. But I want to give you some practical components of self-care. It's not just the big 1-week vacation that we hope to take. We have to create every day that vacation in our 24-hour cycle. For some, it may be, one of my colleagues, what she likes to do is she walks the dog in the morning, because she said that's the only quiet time that she has. So out there walking the dog, that's her mental space. For another, she was like, Sheri, if I could just get an hour bath on Sunday nights, that would be that's my mini vacation. Another, she said, Sheri, if I could just get 30 minutes from 9 to 9:30, just for me in my bedroom, no husband, no kids, no phone, just me, 30 minutes, that's all I need. So the point is, we have to determine what is those daily acts of self-care, 5 minutes, an hour, whatever that amount of time is, and we have to commit to it. But here's the challenge. We all know that. You want to know what the challenge is, my fellow female entrepreneurs? When I asked the question, what recharges you that you could do daily? You can't answer the question.
I don't know.
You can't answer the question. And that's on you. Answer the question. Just answer the question. What can I do daily that recharges me? Because the challenge that we have as women and mompreneurs is when we don't do these three things, when we don't understand the multi-purpose use of our Superwoman cape, when we don't understand the value of others helping us and receiving that help, when we don't give ourselves permission to truly focus in on what self-care we need, we are riddled with resentment. We have resentment. And because we're mompreneurs and because we don't want to accept that we are feeling resentment, it comes out in other ways. It comes out in not making love to our husbands. It comes out in forcing ourselves on our children in a way that is not what they need. They need to be responsible. They don't need us to be overshadowing them. All of these unique nuances that come out because we are feeling resentment. And so when we focus on those three acts, we can relieve ourselves of the resentment, and then we can truly show up in the power of who we are as mom, as wife, and as entrepreneur.
Yeah, that's so true. And you're right. And I had to learn some of those lessons the same way, the hard way.
Yes. Let him wash those towels.
Wow.
So, I'm going to say this. It's amazing, but what you just said, I remember for years, Sheri, I spent trying to convince my wife, let me hire someone to take care of this house.
Yeah.
She's, oh, I don't want him to do this. I don't want him to do this. I said, it doesn't matter. Just let them do it.
Yes.
Finally, I mean, it took a long time. Finally. Now, the thing that we have to work on is, and a lot of ladies are like this, we got to get you to stop cleaning up before they come.
That part. That part. You know what, Cedric? Because it's this hero complex that we have, right? That we have to be the hero. And the reality is we need help. And we need to allow people that are more excellent in other areas, that are more gifted. And here's the trick. Here's how I help my clients. What I say to them is, don't you want to be a blessing? Absolutely. Well, you cleaning your house is keeping that person who that is their skill set. That is how they feed their family. You're keeping that blessing from them, because that's not your gifting and that's not where your time should be. So that family, that person that's supposed to be cleaning your house that you're paying, you are blocking that blessing. And they go, oh, I didn't look at it that way. Oh, I didn't look at it that way. That you done spent 35 years as the leader in the choir. You are blocking the next person that's supposed to be the leader in the choir because you won't relieve yourself of that responsibility. Because we understand that time is valuable, but we don't value time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When we value time, and when we understand that we need to bless someone and get out of the way so that someone else can step into their blessing, so that you can bless someone with the doors that is supposed to go toward their family because you paid them to provide the service that is their gifting, then you can use your time for where you are called to serve. When we get, again, what did I say about at the very beginning? Mindset, paradigm shift. Mindset, paradigm shift. That is the key for entrepreneurship. Mindset, paradigm shift.
Wow. This episode is definitely going to make it to the best of BEI. I'm telling you right now. When we do our best of episode, we're going to have like 15, 20 minutes of Sheri Riley just dropping gold. Sheri, one of the things that I have most appreciated about you for the years that I've known you is your authenticity and your transparency. Because I like the fact that you just bring it and you keep it real 100%, keep it 100. So here's what I want to ask you, because I want to talk about fear, because I think all of us have fear. None of us like to admit it. None of us like to talk about it. What is your greatest fear, and how do you manage those fears?
Yeah, at 19, I read a book, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. Um, I think her last name is Jeffries, because I was so riddled with fear. Fear has been the thing that I've battled the most in my journey in life, period. As an entrepreneur, as a wife, as a mother, in every capacity, I battle it every day. And most recently, I uncovered a remnant of fear, which is doubt, right? Doubt is just as brutal as fear. James 1 says, basically, if you have doubt, you are double-minded in all your ways. How can you receive anything from God? And so, one, for me, again, as a woman of faith, I fight fear every day with the word of God. That is my weapon. That's what I do in the spiritual realm. I fight it. In the natural, one of the things I found to really overcome fear is every day do the work, stay consistent. When you deliver results, it is like kryptonite to fear. Do the work. Give fear its final goodbye with the results that you have. So you've got the spiritual word of God that's battling on your behalf. Then you do the work with consistency. And that also begins to show the proof. Because if you're really honest with yourself, the proof is going to tell you this is a lie that you're believing. And then the third thing is the mind. For me, in order to battle fear, I wake up every morning and I say to myself, you are a winner. You are a magnet for opportunity. You are God's child. You are a champion. I have before, because the subconscious wakes up before the conscious, right? I have to consciously begin telling myself this, because I know fear is always lurking. It's always waiting. The Bible says he did not give us a spirit of fear, but a power of love and a sound mind. So every day you got to choose. Are you going to have a sound mind? Or are you going to allow fear to rob you of what you have the right to have? And so I literally am constantly starting here in my mind, battling and overcoming it by the words that I speak and the decisions that I make on what I think on. But in my transparency, I was like, oh, Damien setting me up. He's like, you are transparent. Yeah. But there's a reason that God speaks 365 times about fear, because every day it is always there. Some people have it to some degrees than others. Some people manage it different than others, but it's always there. But we do not have to succumb to it. We absolutely do not have to succumb to it. And I'm praying for the day that I can say, oh, I don't feel fear at all. I get up every day. And that's not my truth. I literally battle it every day. And here's the last thing I'll say about fear. Fear comes out in so many different ways, meaning sometimes it's doubt, sometimes it's ego, right? You know how many clients I coach, especially high performers, who are riddled with fear, but how they deal with it is being a butthole. They deal with it with being arrogant and condescending and all of those behaviors that that they feel validate them, when underneath it all is fear. I hope that was a very practical answer. Because in my truth, I have to use the word of God, and I have to start with words that defeat and then the results.
Yeah, that was actually an awesome answer, and that should be in the best of. We just have a whole hour of best of, and we call it Best of Sheri Riley. So, hey guys, thank you very much for tuning in to the Black Entrepreneurs Institute live show today. Thank you for tuning in to our guest, Miss Sheri Riley. She definitely mentioned a lot of stuff you should go back and listen to. Remember, the replay of this show is going to be on Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern time. We hope that you have a good rest of your evening. We will see you next show. Thank you.